I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, March 28th, brought to you in part by Toromox by Norbrook. Toromox is a ready-to-use injectable wormer, the affordable alternative to Cydectin, and you can expect the same advantages that you get with Cydectin, except at a lower cost. For more information, go to norbrook.com. Also, Unionville Livestock Market in north central Missouri and Creston Livestock Market in south central Iowa. Unionville Livestock Market is going to be having a special calf and yearling sale coming up Tuesday, April the 1st. They've got several impressive consignments, including Rockin' R's out of Lucerne, Missouri. They got 248 black steers weighing 850 to 875. Tommy Baxter's got 100 head of fancy steer calves. They're all black, weighing 5 to 6.5. And Creston is going to have all classes sale here today on Friday, but then they're going to have a special all vaccinated calf sale and yearling sale on Wednesday, April the 2nd. They've got several impressive consignments, including Justin Peterson's got 180 head of Angus steers weighing 750 to 850. The Boehm's got 140 head of fancy Angus calves weighing 5 to 600 pounds, and Walt Gwynn's got 130 head of Angus yearling steers weighing around 900 pounds. Both of those sales will have additional consignments coming up here at sale time, and both of them be good sales. Check them both out at DVAuction.com. Beef booming during Lent. Now, normally during Lent, which is normally a little bit shorter than what it is this year, beef's kind of down in the doldrums. You know, everybody's going after fish and things like that. But the beef has boomed this week. It was down a little bit on Thursday, but your choice boxes were up big earlier in the week, and they're kind of leading the cash fat cattle trade into some more money here. And we haven't seen any cash fat cattle trade for the most part yet, but it's starting to take off here. But the Northern Plains feeders are working on 220 live. That's what most of them are priced at, is at 220 live. We've seen some 213 trade, and that was just some basis jumpers earlier in the week. But that's not going to be the market. It's going to be more than that. It's going to be more like 215, 218. But we've got a lot of guys priced at 220, and they could get it if they hold out long enough. But the basis window is closing. We saw fats gain quite a bit of ground on Thursday, up almost $2.50. So the basis jumping is not quite as attractive as it was earlier in the week. And so that might lend to higher prices on fat cattle trade, as we've seen the live cattle futures climb, plus the basis window closing a little bit. Late Friday cattle feeders could get it. They could get it. Now we're not talking about the Southern Plains. Southern Plains were 210 last week. They've taken a little bit of that in just little bitty nips, but they don't trade a lot of cattle down there. So maybe they'll get back to 210. They could get to 212 here at the end of Friday. But I'm coming to you from Holstein, Iowa, at Producers Livestock Producers meeting here. And I tell you what, we had about 200 of farmer feeders from middle part of Iowa there, and backgrounders. I tell you what, they're customers of Producers Livestock. Producers Livestock is a marketing agency. They also help you with your risk management. If you're hedged up with Producers Livestock and you get margin calls, they will take care of those margin calls with no interest. Now, you don't see that very often, guys, but it's a pretty impressive program there. Producers Livestock of Omaha. Check them out, guys. Talk about your board on Thursday. April live cattle futures were up 247, closing that window on the basis jumpers at 209.55. June live cattle up 277 at 205.80, and your back month's up 102 to up 245. So pretty impressive gains there on Thursday on your live cattle futures. April feeder cattle up 167 at 287.55. May was up 135 at 286.52. And your back months on feeder cattle unchanged to as much as up 185. So pretty impressive gains on your cattle futures on Thursday, and they've been kind of not too friendly there earlier in the week. May corn was up 1 1/4 cents a bushel at 4.50 a bushel. Beans up 15 3/4 at 10.16 3/4. And your hard red winter wheat for May up 1 1/4 cents at 5.66 1/4 cents a bushel. Fat cattle trade, we have yet to see the gate swing. We have yet to see the fat cattle market really take off on a direct basis out of your 5 area feeding region. We did see a little bit more, mostly basis jumping on Thursday. Iowa sold 800 head. They've sold 4,000 for the week. All the prices on Thursday in Iowa were at 213 live price, and like I said, a lot of guys are priced at 220. Nebraska sold 1 load on Thursday. They'd sold 400 for the week. Live price in Nebraska and 213 live. Same kind of a deal there. Kansas sold 1 load of cattle there. 1,050 head so far for the week out of Kansas. And the only thing we saw out of Kansas on Thursday was some plainer cattle selling at 206. They had sold some cattle at 208 earlier in the week, but the market's 210. That's the last established market in Kansas. Texas sold a load of dairy steers at 198, but that has nothing to do with what the fat cattle are going to bring in Texas. They're probably going to bring about 210, which would be steady. If they hold to their guns, they could get 212. It's still going to get farther away from where the northern plains are trading. Fat cattle auction on Thursday. Kelowna, Iowa sold 800 head, $2 higher at their fat cattle auction. On Thursday, conventional fed cattle sold from 211 to 226 with competitive bidding in an auction setting. Talk about your box beef cutout values. Like I said, your choice box beef has been higher all week but fell on Thursday. Thursday afternoon down 258 at 335.72. Your selects up 219 at 319.44. Slaughter so far for the week been pretty aggressive there because they are really needing the product. So far on slaughter on up through Thursday, through the first 4 days of the week, 485,000 estimated cattle slaughter under federal inspection. That was 45,000 better than same time a week ago. Just 5,000 better than a week ago, but still better. Actual slaughter information come back for the week ending March the 15th. Had your average dressed steer carcass weight at 947 pounds, and that was 2 pounds bigger than the previous report. Talk about what else is going on. Livestock Risk Services, that's Dakota Moss there at the Exchange Building in Oklahoma City, and all the agents that work along with him. They are your LRP specialists, guys. And when you see friendly days like we done on Thursday in your feeder cattle futures out front, you need to be taking a look. Keep tabs on the protection levels for your grazing yearlings that you're turning out here this summer. We are close to 290. You can lock that in on an LRP right now. So get a hold of them at Livestock Risk Services. For more information, go to livestockriskservices.com. Talk about your feeder cattle market brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance, working to protect your livelihood. Your RTI late in the day on Thursday after all your sales had closed, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer sitting at 289.32. It dropped 127, and I was talking about that on the previous visit, why it would have dropped. Most reason because it could have dropped is because a week ago we saw some really high quotes there out of several sales, and we come back into this week, lighter runs, not as fancy a cattle, and they were a little bit lower. Latest CME cash feeder cattle index sitting at 287.67. Talk about some big sales that happened on Thursday. How about winter livestock in Pratt, Kansas? They had 4,200 head. The feeder steers are $2 to $6 higher. Feeder heifers $3 to $10 higher. Calves were not well tested. They did have some peewee calves that were very impressive there. Not a lot of them, but your 3-weight steer calves in Pratt, Kansas sold from $492.50 to $559. Think about that. Those are all-time high quotes there. Another big sale there on Thursday was Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas. Sold 4,600 head. Pretty impressive offering. They were your National Beefwire Stick-Out Sale of the day. Look at this automated auction market report from Cattle Market Central. You see your best tested weights. There were 398 head of 4-weight steer calves in Salina. They averaged 457 with a weighted average price of $409.35. How about 418 head of 5-weight steer calves in Salina? Averaged 556 pounds at $368.83. 476 head of 6-weight steers in Salina averaged 640 pounds at $340.41. 707 head of 8-weight steers in Salina averaged 869 at $280.07. And 310 head of the 9-weight steers, Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas, averaged 952 pounds with a weighted average price of $264.65. Look at some heifers that were well tested there. 346 head of 5-weight heifers averaged 539 at $333.72. 314 head of the 6-weight heifers averaged 648 at $295.42. And 503 head of 7-weight heifers averaged 759 pounds in Salina, Kansas, with a weighted average price of $273.57. Give you some individual quotes from other places. How about Clarinda Livestock Auction in Clarinda, Iowa? DVAuction broadcaster. They sold 71 steers, weighed 755 at $314. How about way up in the Northern Plains at Napoleon Livestock in Napoleon, North Dakota? Another DVAuction broadcaster had 57 steer calves, weighed 561 at $384. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Thursday, your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Winter Livestock in Pratt, Kansas. 58 steers, weighed 801 pounds at $300 and a dime. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.